How many celebrity transformations are real, and how many are carefully polished narratives? When Oprah Winfrey, Kelly Clarkson, and Khloé Kardashian drop weight overnight, the public isn't just curious, it's skeptical. You're being flooded with vague explanations, where Ozempic is either blamed or glorified beyond reason. This video cuts through that noise, separating image pressure from personal choice. Today, we're breaking down the biggest myths, the quiet strategies behind the scenes, and one truth they never openly admit. If there's one person who didn't just follow Hollywood's beauty standards but helped bend them to her will, it's Kim Kardashian. For years, she turned curves into currency and made an entire industry chase her silhouette. So when she suddenly appeared significantly slimmer, people didn't just notice, they started connecting dots, whether those dots existed or not. Kim explained her weight loss with a very specific, almost theatrical goal: fitting into the historic dress once worn by Marilyn Monroe at the Met Gala. According to her, it was a short-term, highly controlled effort, more like preparing for a performance than adopting a new lifestyle. In her version, it was discipline, not desperation. But the public wasn't exactly in the mood to applaud. Rapid transformations rarely land as just dedication anymore, especially with decades of body image pressure baked into the culture. Around that same time, the conversation kept circling back to Ozempic, the now infamous medication that has quietly become Hollywood's worst-kept secret. Kim never confirmed using it, but speculation spread faster than facts ever could. That's the problem with fame at this level. What she frames as focus and control, the public often sees as another example of impossible standards being repackaged and sold, again, to an audience that's already been buying it for years. For decades, Oprah Winfrey wasn't just a television icon, she was practically a moral compass for daytime America. Through The Oprah Winfrey Show, she built a reputation on honesty, self-discipline, and the kind of hard-earned wisdom people trusted. That included her very public, very human struggle with weight, something she revisited again and again with a mix of vulnerability and control that audiences found reassuring. Which is exactly why her later embrace of medical support for weight management didn't just raise eyebrows, it made people pause. In recent years, Oprah acknowledged using modern treatments, including medications like Ozempic, as part of a broader shift in how obesity is understood and treated. From a clinical perspective, it aligns with current science. From a public perception standpoint, it felt complicated. Some viewers saw it as refreshingly honest, a recognition that weight is not just about willpower, but biology, aging, and access to care. Others couldn't ignore the contrast. This is the same figure who once cautioned against quick fixes, now speaking more openly about pharmaceutical support. Not a contradiction exactly, but certainly a recalibration. And that's the uncomfortable reality of long-term fame. When you've spent years shaping public values, even your personal health choices become symbolic. Oprah has emphasized that obesity is a complex medical condition, and she's not wrong. Still, her journey quietly exposes how deeply audiences expect consistency from someone they've trusted for decades. For years, Katy Perry built a career on being loud, colorful, and impossible to ignore. Hits like Firework and California Girls weren't just songs, they were full-blown visual spectacles, complete with costumes that looked like a candy store exploded on stage. Her image was never about subtlety, it was about presence. So when she started appearing noticeably slimmer, the shift didn't exactly slip under the radar. In today's celebrity ecosystem, a visible change like that doesn't stay neutral for long. It turns into a guessing game, and lately, that game has one very predictable answer: Ozempic. Perry, for her part, has never confirmed using it or anything similar. But confirmation has never been a requirement for speculation. The timing didn't help. Her transformation happened right when Ozempic became Hollywood's favorite whispered explanation for rapid weight loss. So naturally, people connected the dots, whether or not those dots belong together. It says less about Perry and more about the culture watching her. Because the truth is, bodies change for all kinds of reasons. Schedules, stress, aging, even the simple reality of different priorities. But nuance doesn't trend. A single narrative does. And right now, Ozempic has become the industry's shorthand for any transformation that looks a little too efficient to be accidental. Perry's situation is just another reminder that in modern fame, perception moves faster than facts, and it rarely bothers to wait. For much of his career, Jonah Hill has done something Hollywood usually avoids, telling the truth about body image. From Superbad to his later dramatic roles, his weight has gone up and down, and so has the commentary. The difference is, Hill never pretended it didn't affect him. He's spoken openly about the mental strain, which, in an industry built on appearances, almost feels like breaking an unspoken rule. So when he showed up looking noticeably slimmer, the reaction was immediate and predictable. Not curiosity, not concern, but speculation. Because now, every transformation seems to come with the same assumption attached: Ozempic. Hill has never confirmed using it or anything similar, but that hasn't exactly slowed the narrative down. What makes this case harder to ignore is his history. Hill has previously asked the public and media to stop commenting on his body altogether, a request that was, unsurprisingly, treated more like a suggestion than a boundary. And yet, here we are again, analyzing his appearance like it's public property. That's the quiet contradiction. Hollywood celebrates transformation as discipline and success, but rarely acknowledges the pressure that drives it. Hill's journey doesn't just reflect weight loss, it exposes the exhausting cycle of being watched, judged, and redefined, over and over again, whether he asked for it or not. For years, Lizzo wasn't just making hits, she was selling a philosophy. Songs like Truth Hurts and Good as Hell didn't just climb charts, they pushed a message: self-love, confidence, and rejecting the kind of beauty standards Hollywood quietly enforces. It was bold, it was consistent, and for a while, it felt almost immune to the usual industry pressures, which is why her visible weight loss didn't land quietly. It triggered the kind of reaction reserved for someone whose image is tied to an idea, not just a career. Some applauded it as a personal health decision. Others couldn't help but notice the tension between the message and the change, as if consistency in public figures is something the audience feels entitled to audit. And predictably, the same familiar whisper entered the conversation: Ozempic. Lizzo has never confirmed using it or anything similar, but at this point, confirmation almost feels irrelevant. The narrative writes itself faster than facts can catch up. That's the trade-off of becoming symbolic. When your brand is built on challenging beauty norms, any shift in your own appearance gets treated like a statement, whether you intended one or not. Lizzo's situation doesn't just reflect personal change, it exposes the uncomfortable expectation that public figures remain perfectly aligned with the ideals they once represented, even as their lives inevitably evolve. When Rebel Wilson declared her so-called Year of Health, it sounded refreshingly straightforward, at least by Hollywood standards. Known for Pitch Perfect and a persona built on humor and confidence, she had long stood slightly outside the industry's usual obsession with size. So when she began documenting workouts, diet changes, and personal milestones, the narrative felt almost wholesome. At first, her transformation looked like a textbook case of discipline: structured routines, medical guidance, and consistency. The kind of story audiences are comfortable applauding. But as the weight came off more visibly and, to some, more quickly than expected, the tone shifted. Curiosity turned into quiet skepticism, because in today's celebrity culture, rapid results rarely stay unexamined. Naturally, the now familiar name entered the conversation: Ozempic. Wilson has never confirmed using it, instead pointing to professional support, nutrition plans, and long-term lifestyle changes. Still, speculation doesn't need confirmation, just timing. Then came the endorsements, media appearances, and the polished rollout of her new image. For some, it remained an inspiring journey. For others, it started to feel a bit too curated, like personal growth with a marketing team quietly in the background. That's the paradox. A story that begins as health can quickly become branding, and when transformation unfolds this publicly, authenticity isn't just questioned, it's dissected. For most of her public life, Khloé Kardashian hasn't just been famous, she's been compared. As part of keeping up with the Kardashians, she was routinely labeled the different one, a title the media repeated often enough to make it stick. Subtlety was never really part of that narrative. After a series of very public, personal setbacks, Khloé reframed her story around discipline and control. She leaned into structured workouts, strict routines, and a carefully documented fitness journey. On the surface, it checked all the boxes: resilience, self-improvement, and a visible effort to reclaim confidence. Understandably, many people found it motivating, but the transformation didn't exactly stop there. With each new appearance, she seemed noticeably slimmer, and the conversation followed right behind her. Because at this point, any dramatic shift in a celebrity body comes with a built-in assumption, and lately that assumption has a name: Ozempic. Khloé has never confirmed using it, but that hasn't slowed the speculation for a second. And in a family where image is practically a business model, privacy was never really on the table. What might be a personal journey for someone else becomes, in her case, a public case study. Her evolution doesn't just reflect change, it highlights the quiet pressure of living in a system where appearance isn't just noticed, it's monetized, compared, and endlessly analyzed. Across the lives of Dolly Parton, Goldie Hawn, Joan Van Ark, Cayetana Fitzjames-Stewart, Lisa Rinna, Kenny Rogers, and Linda Evangelista, one pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Fame doesn't just spotlight appearance, it amplifies insecurity, expectation, and the quiet need to stay relevant just a little longer. Some leaned into change with confidence, others paid the price for chasing something just out of reach, and a few ended up as cautionary tales the industry prefers not to revisit too closely. Because beneath every transformation is rarely just vanity. It's pressure, identity, and a system that rewards perfection while quietly punishing aging. That's the part people don't like to admit. The mirror was never really the problem, it was the audience watching it. In the end, what lasts isn't the illusion of flawlessness. It's the ability to adapt, to endure, and to exist beyond the image that once defined you. And if that sounds less glamorous than the headlines, that's because it is. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss what Hollywood would rather keep polished and out of focus.